On this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast, we speak with a creative business strategist in the Indianapolis area. Don't miss it. Welcome, everyone, to the Open in Indiana podcast, where we feature the people, places, and events that make Indiana a great place to live, work, and visit. Today, our guest is Sherrita Niles, Creative Business Strategist at In Connection Strategies. Sherrita, how are you today?
I am doing well. Thanks so much for asking, Ryan.
Well, Sherrita, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Let's talk about your business, In Connection Strategies. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're able to do for your clients?
Yes, I definitely can. In Connection Strategies is a business strategy agency. What we focus on is helping professionals and businesses target their network community. So in other words, I help people build strong relationships inside and outside of their company, meaning if you have a team and maybe your team is not working cohesively, or you just need people to work a little better together, get to know each other. I come in and I create strategies for that. We do some team building. And in addition to that, if you are looking to get your business better known in your community, build some credibility, build trust, then I create strategies for that as well. Most of my strategies are rooted in networking because I'm a natural connector. So I believe everything that you need is right within your reach. And if you use the people that are around you and the services that are around you, then everything you need, you'll be able to find it.
Awesome. And so, Sherrita, you mentioned networking as being a prominent cornerstone of what you're able to do. Can you give our viewers and listeners a little bit of an overview of what networking can entail?
Networking entails pretty much everything we do on a regular basis. Maybe not so much since we've been in our inclusive world during the pandemic, but every day you're meeting individuals, you see individuals, you're connecting with other business organizations, and really that can be done online or offline. For me, I teach people how to do it in an effective way because a lot of times people link making a sale or trying to get something for their business as a connection. That is a connection in a way, but that's not technically networking. Networking is a give and take. And I should correct that. Building a relationship is a give and take. Networking is just the first step to relationship building. So when you are building a relationship with someone, you know, whether it's familiar, whether it's romantic, whether it's business, there's always something that you're giving and something that they're giving, and there's a win-win for both sides. And I think that's sometimes where we miss the mark is we consider just saying hello or shooting an email to someone and saying, hey, if you ever see someone, let me know, that that's networking. And it really is. I mean, as a business owner, and I've received emails like that, what am I going to do for you if I don't even know what you do? I haven't made a connection with you. There's no human connection. So I help people to cultivate the human side of networking and relationship building.
And Sherrita, that brings up an excellent point of building that relationship, especially in the age of technology. So let's talk a little bit about your background and how you got started.
Yes, it's a very interesting story. I am actually a Indianapolis implant. So I'm not born and raised here. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I woke up one day in 2017 and just decided it was time to go and sent out resumes, had an interview, accepted a position, and I knew no one in Indianapolis. I did not have family here and I did not have friends here. I had absolutely no one that was familiar to me, other than the supervisors at the position that I accepted. They were the only people that I really knew. I knew a few people who had come here, lived here, but I didn't really have great connections with them to say, oh, those are my friends. And it was in that move that I realized how great I was at connecting. And yes, I'm patting myself on the back because from that day forward, I have been able to not only build my family, but also, build my business, but also build my life. I was able to bring my family here. We found great places to live. We connected with great people. We gained friends from some of those connections. And not all of them were business related, but a lot of them they started as business connections. And then those individuals really just poured into my life because I allowed them to connect with me on a human side, not just on the business side. So just saying, hey, we've moved here and this is what we're doing. And people are like, oh, well, that's great. Well, let me tell you about this. And so that developed. But I think my background for connecting it probably just goes back as far as I can remember. Like my grandmother taught me things about communication and how to communicate with people and how important it was. And as a young person, I was very shy and I didn't, but I always longed to kind of engage with people. I just didn't know how. And as I got older, I kind of just put the fear under my feet and stepped out and was like, well, if you don't talk to people, then how are you going to get there? And there's something that my grandmother used to say a lot, and it was a closed mouth won't get fed. So I started using that as my motivation. Is like, if I don't open up and say something, then who will ever know? And then moving here, I worked in positions and sometimes I'd be looking for something different. And the way that I got something different and something better was by saying something, not necessarily saying, oh, I hate where I'm at, but hey, if you ever see something, these are the skill sets that I have. And it just, it kept improving for me. It kept improving. And then in that, I was able to go back and connect with people that are from my hometown and even people in other cities that I never knew anyone before. Like I was getting contacted by people or through other connections. And so it built from there. That's how I kind of transitioned to this. Prior to starting In Connections, I was an event manager. So the organizational side, the very detailed side of doing strategy, creating strategy, all of that is almost like second nature to me because I've done event planning since probably 2001, which really ages me, but it's okay. That's when I initially started with it. So I've always been a person who is very good with logistics and the details and solving problems and things like that. So that's kind of where this came from. And my ability to work with different types of companies and businesses comes from, I've worked from corporate to private to nonprofit, and most of my positions have been relationship building positions. So in every position that I have, there's a need to connect with other agencies, other organizations, other people to build on what the position was that I was in. So it just kind of comes as like a second thing next to breathing for me. I'm always looking to connect people. When I connect with someone, I'm always trying to connect them to someone else. So.
And so, Sherrita, that brings up an excellent point about communication and how to be effective as you meet new people. What advice could you offer somebody who might be shy but is in a position where they have to get the word out about what they do?
One tip I could give is always be yourself. The person that you are is reflective to the brand that you represent, whether it's your own brand or or a company that you work for. Your personality is what is going to win over that connection. So if you go in and you make it a take one, this is a stage show, then people will normally identify that. They know when it's not genuine. So just be yourself. If you're an introvert, then be an introvert. Find another introvert to connect yourself to. There's plenty in the room, trust me. You don't have to go to the loudest person or the most excited person in the room because that is a little bit intimidating for an introvert. But find another person that's kind of standing off alone by themselves or looks like they're uncomfortable. Say hi to them because together you guys can conquer the room without, making each other uncomfortable.
And so, Sherrita, what's one thing that you wished you knew when you first started your business?
When I first started my business, I think the first thing that I knew is all of the resources that are really available to small businesses. I feel like at this point, I'm very excited about where I am now and the things that have happened. And honestly, my business has grown astronomically just in the midst of a pandemic because I kind of made a bit of a pivot. But I wish that I had known those things earlier in the beginning, because I could be a little bit further on, but also I appreciate the steps that I've taken because they are growth and they help me to advance a little bit more.
Awesome. And so, Sharita, how can our viewers and listeners contact you if they'd like to learn more or if they're just ready to have a conversation?
Well, you can start with my website, which is inconnectionstrategies.com, but it's in-connection-strategies.com. Sorry. The whole name, but with dashes in between each word, or in.connectionstrategies at Facebook and Instagram and also LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, Sharita, thank you so much for being today's guest. And to everyone watching and listening, thank you for catching this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast. Catch our next episode soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast. If you enjoyed listening, subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Music, iHeartRadio, or on our website, openindiana.com/OII podcast. Thanks for listening.